Welcome back, guys. It is October and we have all of the fun fall things in our box this month. So I'm just going to get started showing you. It comes with a brush this month. This is to put the watercolors onto your nib, and here's your nib inside your nib holder. We have a whole bunch of different embellishments that we're going to be using to make our place cards with. And so that's what I'm going to show you, is different ways you can use the vellum to get a lot of different effects. And then you have a set of at least 8 of these metal place card holders. Let's see, we've got some pine cones and some chiffon ribbon. And then your handmade inks this month are the copper and the gold. And I have them right here lined up. Here's the rose gold, the olive gold, plain gold, and then a copper. And they look like this. Here's a sample from a live video I did this month. But super pretty selection for this fall box. Okay, and then also, if you subscribed for a certain date this month, you got some bonus goodies. And so let me give you a little behind the scenes of these glow-in-the-dark paints. They didn't work as ideally as I anticipated them to. The purple doesn't glow as vivid. There is a larger one that's in the same size as like these regular watercolors, and that is a green glowing ink, and it works a little bit better. But because it didn't work as I had hoped, I threw in some extra nibs for you. So I had said that I'd be sending you 3 nibs, but you should have at least 5 or 6, and then of course your glass jar. I've just got a little bit of water in mine. So that was a bonus gift, just as a thank you for being here and following along all year long and every month. So let's go ahead and get started with the nib and the pen holder. Okay, I'm just putting this paper here so you can see a little bit better, so it shows up. But this is an oblique pen holder. Okay, looks kind of funky, but this is called the flange, and in this one it is actually removable. So I could use this as a straight holder where the nib would go into the bottom here, or I can leave that flange in there, there we go, and use it as an oblique holder. Now when you're inserting your nib, you want to insert it so that, let's see, I'm going to kind of hold this edge and push. Okay, I'm going to grab my paper towel, because sometimes, there we go, a little bit finicky. The reason we like a brass flange is because the end is going to be open. Let me show you the alternative. The alternative in a lot of beginner calligraphy kits is this standard speedball holder, and you can see that this is closed on the back, which works fine if you haven't had any experience with it before, but that's as far as the nib will go in. And so this brass flange allows the nib to be adjusted out the back. And you want to adjust your nib so that the tip of the nib lines up with the center of the holder. So you can see, let's see, if I hold it up like this tip is lined up right with the center. Okay, that's not showing up properly on the screen, but right with the center of the holder. So you want to be able to move that up and down depending on the nib that you're using. For example, if I pull one of these bonus nibs up, you can see that this one is quite a bit smaller. So you're going to want to be able to adjust that properly so that you're getting the right angle when you're writing. And then also you want it to be in there pretty solid so that you can apply pressure without it moving. Okay, and you can see over here on this plastic one that that's as far as I can get the nib in, and it is that far off. So ideally you want that pushed down again so that the middle is lined up with the center of the pen holder. Okay, so we have our nib inserted into the holder. If you're a lefty, probably not going to want to use an oblique holder. Some lefties that I know will, but if you're left-handed, I would just remove the flange and use it as a straight holder, because typically lefties already hold their grasp at an angle. So typically a lefty will choose to use a straight holder, but you want to use obviously what works for you. So we have this 2-in-1 adjustable holder. Once you've got your nib in, it's going to need cleaned. Now there's a lot of methods to doing this. Some people will just stick it in their mouth and use the saliva. Some people will put it in a potato for like 5 minutes. So you hear these calligraphers carrying a potato around in their toolbox. But honestly, I just use a little bit of water, sometimes even just a baby wipe, because I always have those handy. Just a little bit of water. And when they come from the factory, they are coated in an oil so that they won't rust. So you want to clean that oil off, and then also when I've just inserted it into the flange, I've gotten my finger oils all over it. So you want to give that a good cleaning, and then it's ready to go.
So I'm just going to show you, this month you're going to get a guide sheet. I just rewrote some beautiful fall words that you can actually use as a traceable. So you'll take your vellum, and the great thing about vellum is it's see-through. So if you place it over, you can see it's easily traceable. This will give you just a good little beginner starting point to practice, and then you can try on your own. So what I will do is I will choose thank you, and I'm using gold ink because I love gold. It goes with absolutely everything. And I'm going to dip my pen in ink, and I am going to trace. So let's trace thank you. And you're just going to line up your place card with the guidelines just so that your word is straight. But again, you can be creative, right on an angle, center it, whatever you like. And you will notice that my nib is making a scratching noise, and that is absolutely okay. That's actually a wonderful sound to calligraphers. It's also the texture of the vellum. I like a little swoop here. That's kind of my go-to. You may have to go over it a little bit just because if the ink isn't flowing. Just go nice and slow. I'll go a little slower here. So easy when you have the guidelines. So it's a great way to practice. Okay, and then I'll show you. Now the ink's going to be a little bit wet, so you can't really see the shine, but as soon as that dries, it's going to give a beautiful shimmer like these. And there you go. Hi everyone, this is Carla from Nurture Soul Calligraphy, and today I'm going to show you how to do vellum place cards. Now first we're going to go through some of the materials that you may already have, but that will be included in your box. So first of all, you need vellum, which is just this clear sheet, which can be cut to any size you like. Comes in big sheets like this. Okay, you'll need an ink and a pen and some embellishments. So we have ribbon, baby's breath, some wax seals, some pine cones, some pumpkins, just a pretty way to display your place cards once they're made for that beautiful table setting that you're going to create for Thanksgiving dinner.
Okay, so I'm going to set that to the side, again, without getting my fingers on it because I don't want to get finger oils on it. Included this month, you have a blank guide sheet. Now, since this is right here front and center, I want to show you how the pen holder, the oblique pen holder, relates to the guide sheet. So if I'm sitting at my desk or workstation, I'm sitting straight onto the table. This is the way I'm facing, straight on like this. But when you place your paper, you typically want it at about a 45-degree angle. So this corner here should be pointing right towards your body. If you're left-handed, just the opposite, where this corner is pointing to your body. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to line it up this way, and I'm just going to grab my holder with my natural grip, and then I am going to rest my hand on my page and then adjust my paper according to the slant of the nib. So right here, if I'm pulling down, that is not lined up with the slant lines at all. I want it to follow this line, so I'm going to just turn my paper, and there you have it. That is going to be my natural writing position. So you can see if I just hold it naturally and I'm pulling down, that does not follow the slant line. And the slant is going to give us that consistency and that elegance that you find in typical pointed pen calligraphy. Okay, so I adjusted the paper. It's pointing towards me, and mine's even a little bit more than 45 degrees. And then this, if I pull this down, it's following right along the slant line. So that's how I know that my paper is lined up properly. You have a blank guide sheet, and then you have an exemplar. And you can use any of the pages to practice with. I did include an extra vellum or tracing paper in there this month. And we don't have any dip ink. So what we're going to use, I included extra inks this month. So you had plenty of colors to work with. And so what I like to do is just put a couple drops. I could use a dropper bottle, just do maybe 2 drops in each color and kind of let it soak. Or I even will just use my brush and kind of dab it in, 1, 2, just till it gets a little bit of a puddle to where it's soaking. And you don't need a lot, so whatever I have handy is what I honestly use. So I am going to use, I think I'm going to use this olive green just so it shows up nicely in the camera. The gold's going to be really shiny, and so we're going to get a lot of glare, I think, in the camera. I'm going to try the gold. So the nice thing about vellum and tracing paper is that you can draft your designs or your practice pages or whatever you're working on and place it right under your piece. So tracing paper is going to be a lot thinner than vellum that's used for a final piece. What you have in your box is a heavy-duty vellum. So it's like a final print, final piece. It's going to be thicker, more heavy-duty than just typical tracing paper. But I always recommend having a bit of tracing paper on hand, just because then you can keep your exemplars clean and keep practicing as much as you want. Okay, so you notice my nib was being a little bit finicky, so I added a little more ink to the back. Let me zoom in here. Okay, so all I did was dip it, and I just kind of brushed it on the edge of the nib, just enough that it's got a pool in the back there. If you feel like you need to do, see, that was a little too much. And I think it's because it's not completely clean yet, because it slid right off of there. So I'm going to dip, I'm just going to swish it in the water over here, wipe it clean again. And then I'm actually just going to see if I can grab that. Maybe not. Sometimes you can kind of scoop up that puddle of ink. Okay, that looks to be maybe sticking a little bit better. There we go. Okay, and then the nice thing here is that I can just go over and practice Carla's exemplar here. So this is going to be copper plate based exemplar. Carla typically does traditional calligraphy, and copper plate comes from literally the term copper and plate, where before we had printers and typewriters and that type of thing, penmen and engravers we're literally engraving the letters into copper plates to be printed. So that is where the copper plate name comes from. So I'm kind of just holding my brush in one hand and refilling it about every letter or two. I'm going to add just a touch of water there. So that's like the downfall to using watercolor or gouache, is that you're going to have to apply it, whereas with a bottle of ink you can just dip it. So it does slow you down a tad, but it allows much wider variety of colors that you aren't able to get in an ink jar. So I'm just barely dipping when you see me going over to the water, I'm just barely dipping like, oh, I'm way off here. I'm dipping about like that much in just to get it flowing. I could just add more water in here. That would do the same effect, but I had this handy, so okay, let me wipe this off. So I just wanted to show you a couple different ways. I could have added more water into this ink here because I notice it's not flowing completely smooth. And so it just takes a lot of troubleshooting. But usually, okay, so see, that's a lot more drippy, watery, whatever you want to call it. Okay. So I am just tracing over. And with pointed pen, if you're completely new to calligraphy, I'm going to pause right here. If you're completely new and this is your first time getting a calligraphy box or any experience with calligraphy, the tines of the pointed pen nib, when you add pressure, let's see if I can zoom in right here. Okay, when you add pressure, can you watch the tines there's two tines, one on this side and one on this side. So when I add pressure, oops, let me go up here, those tines, there we go, are moving apart to release more ink. So if I don't add any pressure, I'm just getting a thin line. If I'm adding pressure, I'm getting a thicker line, which requires a lot more ink. So in calligraphy, typically your upstrokes are going to be thin upstrokes and thick down. Did I say that right? Thin upstrokes, thick downstrokes. Thin upstrokes, thick downstrokes. So if you are brand new, before you get into the letters too far and you're feeling overwhelmed, I would recommend just doing some pressure exercises. So I'll show you a couple things that we could do. Just some straight lines, getting some thick lines, down, up, thin, down, thick. So thick, thin, thick, thin. Just to get our ink going and a feel of how things work. And once you're feeling like you're getting, okay, thick and thin, thick and thin, you can do some curves. These are compound curves. And again, if you're brand new, when you first subscribe to my email list, you'll get a downloadable workbook that can help you understand this better if you're feeling completely lost. But we've gone over it several times for those of you that have been around. But if you're brand new, again, hop on over to the website and it will ask you for your email, and then you can download some extra practice pages for these basic strokes. Some ovals are good practice. Kind of looks like a cursive E. Thin up, thick down. And then we have like descender loops and ascender loops. So this is kind of a, it looks like swirls, but maybe like an elongated S shape where I'm doing loop, down, loop. These are the loops you'll see in like H's and J's and G's, Y's. Okay, so if you're feeling comfortable with your nib, and you may not be yet, that's completely fine. Pause this and keep practicing and playing until you are getting thin and thick lines. Thin, thick, thin, thick, thin, thick. And then you can go ahead and move back to the letters. And like I said, the vellum or the tracing paper is nice because you can just follow right along Carla's exemplar. So these are all going to be entry strokes. Again, if you have been around for a while, you could speed this video up or skip past this part and do your own practicing. But for those of you who are new, I'm just going to give you some details here. These are going to be entry strokes. So they are their own stroke. And then each letter is built up of strokes. So there was an oval stroke. Just that, sorry about that. And then this is a descender loop and an exit stroke. The R is its own letter, entry stroke, pressure, undercurve. S, entry stroke, pressure, exit. Entry stroke, this is an undercurve, pressure, upstroke. And several of the past videos will go into the strokes more. If you're not feeling comfortable or consistent yet, I always recommend going back and practicing the strokes. Once your strokes are consistent, especially in pointed pen, then your letters start to be consistent. Okay. Underturn, underturn, and connecting stroke. Underturn, connecting stroke. So take your time practicing and getting comfortable with your pointed pen nib. X, Y. And then in traditional calligraphy, numbers are typically done at 1.5 height. So they're not going to be the same size as lowercase or minuscule letters, but they're not going to be as large as capital either. They're going to be in between. So Carla's style here is based off of traditional copperplate. If you're interested in copperplate specifically, there's a book by Eleanor Winters, and I will link it down below. But I really love Mastering Copperplate Calligraphy. You can find it on Amazon, but that's a really detailed one that will show you every single stroke and where every swell or pressure should be added. It's quite intense and would take weeks and weeks of study, but if that is the style you love, then I definitely recommend grabbing a book and studying it further. So I am just working through these capital letters. In calligraphy, we refer to them as majuscules. So the majuscules and the minuscules for the lowercase letters. And then, if you're wondering how I'm feeling about this brush in my hand, I'm going to give you a little background about my journey. I'm a very heavy-handed calligrapher. That means with the more flexible nibs, I make a complete mess. I'm very heavy-handed. And so a tip I learned from, I don't remember whose class I was taking, one of the master penman's courses, I believe. And they were talking about how to help you alleviate your hand, to not be so heavy-handed or so like white-knuckled. And actually by holding something in your opposite hand. So like even just holding a paper towel in this opposite hand would allow me to use less pressure on my dominant hand because I'm focusing on holding this item over here. So I actually like holding the brush simply because I'm sort of focusing on it, and then I'm not putting as much pressure on my holder over here on my right hand. So there's a little tip for you. If you are feeling heavy-handed and not getting super thin lines or getting more blobs, or you're not making it through this page without your hand completely cramping, you probably have a pretty firm grip or really heavy-handed, like I mentioned. And so just holding something in this opposite hand, even like I said, a paper towel, just something kind of takes your mind off of this dominant hand, so you're not putting as much pressure. So I actually did not mind holding that paintbrush just there because it helped me not think about that writing hand as much. Okay, once you're comfortable with your practice, of course this doesn't have to be done in one sitting. You could practice one night and then practice another night or practice for a week long. But look at this pretty olive gold. Isn't it so pretty? I'm so proud of this one. I just love the shimmery ones. And so I'm always like, oh, I better make one that's not shimmery for all of you guys. But I love the shimmery ones and they're so fun. Okay, so go ahead and practice as long as you feel like you need to. If you need more resources, hop back to the other videos and look at those strokes. Grab that free download. And of course, hop over into the Facebook group as well and ask any questions that you need help with. I'm always there to answer questions, and I do live videos where I can hop on and demonstrate anything you're having trouble with too. You have 16 pre-cut place cards, so I figured most family dinners would maybe be around, I thought at least 8, so I did 16 pre-cut for you. If you want to keep practicing with tracing paper, that's great. Carla has included some practice words here. And you notice that I am lifting my pen after each stroke. Not even after a letter. See how that U is not completed and I lifted? Lift. That helps gain consistency in your words. So go ahead and practice the words, and then we can make our place cards. Okay, this page didn't print out in color for some reason, so I will also, I think I did this last month where I think my printer shop that I've been using has been missing my color-coded pages. Anyways, I will put these color photos up from Carla on the blog, but you can see here how she styled this. This is just a piece of vellum, and she used a pine cone as the place card holder. And then this one, it has some rolled edges. So we're just going to go through some different ways that you can use the vellum to create some just really pretty place cards. So if you're not comfortable yet freehanding a name, you could come over and trace. I'm going to do Just do Carla's name and then come up to the C. And this is kind of actually fun because you can see how every letter connects. Their exit stroke is the next letter's entry stroke. So you can see how these get built up. And then we can move over to so there, that exit stroke is now going to be the entry stroke of my L. And then the exit of the L is going to be the entry of the A. So this is kind of nice because we do not have to freehand this on our own. If you're not feeling super confident this month, then use your tracing paper and your exemplar to practice. And you could always pencil it in and do your design, on paper, sketch it out, use the guideline, the guide sheet here to write your names out, and then trace over top of that also, which may be what I would do if I was working on a commission. Let me show you what I might do. So I could use the guide sheet. I would just need to decide how large I want to make my letters, and then let me just think of some names. So you could kind of pencil them in. So I'm doing 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so if that helps you feel comfortable with your place cards, definitely go ahead and do that first. And then same effect, you're just going to place your vellum over top, add some ink to the back of your nib and center it, and you can write your names. Being finicky again. There we go. I'll leave it to me to splatter everywhere. Okay, so there's just a sample of how you could pencil it out. And then for me, I'm just going to freehand a couple names so that we can design our place cards. I'm going to switch colors just to mix it up. I'm using this is the copper. And I'm going to do this one. I'm going to leave some space on the side of this one. Show you why. Okay, so that gives us a couple samples that we can work with here. So I showed you first that you could use the pine cone as a placeholder. So I'm just looking at this sheet here and going to show you some of the ideas that Carla and I came up with. You could tie, of course, you could, like do a little hole punch. Did I grab my hole punch? I guess not. That's okay. You could just add a little hole punch. And you could tie it to the pine cone or a little fall twig. Like you could even use, I'll show you with the baby's breath. You could even use like the baby's breath. Just place it on there. You can use the metal stands in your box holder. That was the next one. But since I have this hole here, I'm going to show you. The chiffon ribbon just goes so pretty with vellum. And so, I'm just going to tie a little bow. Doesn't that look super pretty? Just nice and delicate. I got some splatters there. But yeah, so that one's really pretty, a really pretty design. Let's see, we could do, okay, I do want to tie another chiffon one, but I want to talk to you about deckled edges. So something about vellum is that it makes really pretty deckled edges, and what that means is essentially that you're tearing the paper. So you can buy tools that will deckle the edge for you, but really, I mean, all you're going to do is just tear it, and you don't want it to be perfect, but so, and then if you add the ribbon, it's just a really pretty, delicate type place card. And vellum's just, it's so nice to work with. Like I said, because you could trace on it. Almost every ink works on it. Brush pen, pencil, everything works on it. Okay, see how pretty that little place card looks. Let's see, I need something dark behind it so that you can see. There, and just like that, you have a pretty little place card. And then while I have this colored paper here, there's another idea where you can attach the vellum. Okay, so you can see how adding just a piece of color behind the vellum can make a really pretty effect also. That maroon looks really pretty behind it. Anyways, and then add your name across so that it shows up. Just really pretty. So let's see, we talked about tying the ribbon into the end, however you see that you love it. We deckled the edges, that is just ripping it, and that could be easier on like a larger piece of paper. Where yours are pre-cut, that could be a little bit tricky, but it just adds a nice effect. So you could deckle the edges. Let's see, we talked about using your pine cones as the place card holder, which just looks really cute on your fall table. And then I'm going to show you your metal place card stand. So they're just little metal. You can slip your place card right in there. And I was pleasantly surprised with them. They're really pretty. I obviously would want to either make sure my name, like that one, the name got into the stand because I ripped it too small. So if you're gonna use these, definitely make sure your name is more upwards, or of course, you can keep your name up a little bit like that. Anyway, so you can use your metal stands, the chiffon ribbon, deckle the edges. Let's see, what else do we have on our list? Let's do some rolling. Okay, so I typically would use a Well, let's use Nixon's name for this. Is that dry? That should be dry. I would just use a pencil, and what you do is just roll it one direction, like halfway. You know, get it rolled, and then the other direction, another on the other side. So I'm gonna roll it that way on that side, and then I'm gonna roll it this way on this side. Okay, and then this one isn't quite long enough, but if I just had like a pretty napkin on my place setting, I can clear this out a bit. Say this was my napkin on my plate. A lot of people will just set that rolled vellum on their napkin. And actually, I think that's one of Carla's photos. Okay, so she rolled it at an angle on this one here. So I rolled those on the ends. Let me show you how you could roll it at an angle. And I'm gonna actually use my holder because I noticed the lines in the pencil gave me some bumps on this roll. So let's roll it at an angle. So if you were doing a whole table setting, I might make these a tad bit longer. Kind of just depends on your table setting where you're going to place them. I've also seen brides. Okay, so I rolled it one way on that side, and then I'm going to roll it the other way on this side. Anyways, so I'd want to write my name before I rolled it, but just kind of a fun little way to add some character. And then I've seen brides that will, I mean, it doesn't just have to be for weddings, but where they roll it really tight on one end, and then maybe like hook it to, I don't have anything close by, but they'll hook it to like their champagne glass or something on this end. So that's really cute too, where you just roll it and then hook it to a glass or a cup or whatever is by their place setting. And then, you know, you could even roll it and put like your silverware in there. You could roll it and tuck some flowers in. Anyways, I think that's really pretty. Let's see, can you see that? Anyways, lots of fun ways to just touch up the vellum. Okay, so moving down the list, let's talk about attaching the baby's breath. So I showed you in the beginning you could, if you had a hole punch, you could just place the baby's breath in that way. We could use, and I'm actually going to break this apart. So I gave you a couple just little sprigs of baby's breath. I packaged them right before I shipped them, but they should be dried by the time they get to you. They were fresh a couple days ago. So like you could just tuck this into the ribbon, and that's just gonna be so classic and just really delicate, I think. Okay, I can't find the bottom of the stem, but I think you know where I'm headed with this. Oh my word. Okay, there we go. Okay. Anyways, so that's a really delicate way. You could add the baby's breath in. I also like to, if I'm making my own wax seals, so you have pre-assembled wax seals. What that means is that I've squirted the hot wax out, stamped them, and put an adhesive seal on the back. If I was making my own, when I squirt the wax on to my paper, then I could place even just like just a tiny bit into the wax seal, and it leaves a really nice effect. But since I've already poured them for you, we can use that kind of like, I'm just kind of going to place it like that. And then when I remove the backing of my wax seal, okay, so these have adhesive, so sometimes that starts to pull up. You just want to pull off that layer there. And I'm doing it on this red paper here just because it was sitting here. And then you can just use that sticky to kind of include some baby's breath. If you want a little bit longer piece, we could have, I don't know if that'll come back up. These are, I mean, pretty sticky. Anyway, so that makes your wax seal just really pretty and delicate. Let me show you what that might look like with the vellum. Okay, where's the rest of my baby's breath? I'm just going to break that off, put that there. Okay. So the nice thing about the pre-made is that you can place it wherever you want, whereas when you're making them at home directly onto your piece, it's not always perfect. But I did leave, let's see, I did leave Everett's name right aligned so we could put wax seal on it. They look pretty just on their own. Or you can also, you know, put the ribbon underneath if you want to make a, let's see, where's another name? Here's Beckham. If you want to use the wax seal to make like a closure type thing, I would obviously need to cut my ribbon here. I think I have a shorter piece. So I could kind of wrap it around. Anyways, these are all things that I've done. I feel like we use chiffon a lot. Nice. So something kind of like that, but his name would obviously need to be moved to the right. But the wax seals are really fun, really pretty. I've just included some fall ones that you can use on your pieces. Hopefully you're getting some ideas. Let's see what we've got so far. So we've done wax seals, the chiffon ribbon, the deckled edges, and you can combine any of these. I love this one here with the baby's breath, the ribbon, and the deckled edge. I mean, we're going all out, right? Use your metal stands, and then I was going to show you, let's see, let's use this one, or maybe I'm going to grab my brush again, and let's do the gold. Yeah, I'm just going to add a touch of gold to the edge of the vellum. It just kind of finishes it off and gives it a really pretty look. So I could just go really simple like that. If I wanted to kind of touch in the corners a bit more, I could do that. This is just going to give it the gold gilding type effect, but I just think it's really pretty. I mean, we can all use a little more gold, right? So that's something you could do. Another thing that you could do, let's see what's on our list. We've got, we did all those. Use the wax seal to attach baby's breath, a hole punch. Use your wax to glue it in right when you make it, to roll the vellum, decal the edges, paint the edges gold, add some foliage, go out and collect some fall foliage to put with your wax seals. Or you could also paint some foliage. I'm going to pull this ribbon off and even just like a little, let's see, this red helps it show up nice. Anyways, there's just like a little twig, and while this is sitting here, I'm like, oh, this looks really cute. I could have put this way and used this entire piece as a place card. So you can see the options are just endless. So I could paint with my paintbrush. I could go in and add some, let's see, where's my nib here? And then the gold. Go in and add some. So I like to do leaves with my nib where I just, let me zoom in here. Basically, I'm just going to add pressure to the stem. Let me grab some more. So I'm going to point, light, add pressure, light, add pressure, light, add pressure. Pressure. Okay, I like that so that you could see the difference in the bronze and the gold. Maybe like a little piece of wheat or whatever you want to call it. Some dried fruit slices is something I see all the time that's so beautiful, where they'll like dry an orange slice and then use the card, the vellum card on top of the, like an orange slice or a citrus, lemon or lime I've seen. But the orange slices look really pretty, and they'll just either put this on top of the orange slice with maybe like a brad, and I've seen like some jute twine. Anyway, so that's a fun idea. And then the last one would be to add a watercolor background. Okay, while those were drying, I just wanted to add some rose gold to this one. I thought it was the perfect one for rose gold. Okay, that was interesting. These curled up when they were wet, and then when they were dry, they flattened back out. So by just a background watercolor wash, then I'm gonna just use a brush pen, or if you have black ink with your nib, I think it might smear a little bit. I don't think so though. Now it should be dry enough. I can go in and add add some darker lettering over top. And those could just go right on your place setting. We could use these metal holders. Anyways, super cute, and I love the rose gold. You have to tell me which color you love the most this month, because I couldn't decide. They're all so shiny. So I'm gonna make a couple. Anyway, so I know you didn't have a brush pen in your kit, but that's just, I'm sure you've got one on hand, just some ways that you could do the watercolor background. Anyways, we have got a ton here. Let's see if I've used everything up. Oh, one other thing. Let's use this one. You could attach with your wax seal to some colored paper, similar to like I did with this one. I'm just going to go horizontal instead of vertical. And let's stick that on there. Anyway, so there's another style. Lots of different things you can do. Let me know which style you love, which style you decided to do. Did you put this on here? Are you going to make these for your Thanksgiving table? Maybe you have a birthday party coming up, baby showers. Yeah, tell us what you did with it, because I just think vellum, there's so many possibilities with vellum, which was why we included it this month. We just love it, and it's so classy and pretty, and it just looks so good. So share with us what you did. And then our last thing to do is the quote. So since I have the rose gold handy right here, I'm going to use it for the quote. And the same thing applies to a large piece. We could add a piece of ribbon. We could add a deckled edge. We could add a wax seal, some designs with the other color of ink. I think my nib might need cleaned. There we go, maybe. Okay, so now that I'm completely done, I'm washing my nib off. You can remove it from the flange. I never do this, but it is recommended, or else it could rust into the flange. So definitely get that out, if you're having a hard time getting it out, take the flange out so that it releases a little bit of the pressure. And that's probably because of the water that it was getting so stuck in there. Okay, so I used the rose gold to make the quote. I don't know, I love the rose gold too. Also pretty. I could add any designs I wanted to. I did want to show you one other thing I realized. If I do a deckled edge and then paint the edges, I've done this before too. It adds kind of another it just kind of soaks up the gold a little bit better to do it on the deckled edge. So I wanted to show you that. All right, so that's everything for this month. I hope you enjoyed it. And this box is just all about being creative and seeing what you can do with the supplies and what you love. And yeah, just a lot of variety with the vellum. So I just wanted to showcase that and showcase Carla's talent with her classic calligraphy. Anyways, yeah, share with us what you did. Share with us if they go on your holiday tables, how you made your quote. We love to see it all. And of course, don't hesitate to ask any questions in the group. And show us what you've been up to. And then we'll get ready for our next box. The next one is watercolor with a Pentel Aquash brush. So we're excited about that one too. Okay guys, thanks for watching, and I can't wait to see your holiday place cards.